press the bell icon to stay updated with all the new happenings at SRM University Delhi NCR Sonpat.
Good afternoon, everyone. I, Akarshita, on behalf of Faculty of Law, SRM University, welcome our honorable guest for today, Ms. Achint Kaur, for giving us her precious time and address our new as well as existing students. I welcome our respected Dean Sir, Professor Dr. Ashok K. Kantru, Professor Dr. Chandrakanta Ma'am, Mr. Adhindu Thakur, our head of the department, Ms. Deepshika, all the faculty members, and my dear students. We are starting with the third week of orientation and seventh day of the department-specific event. Before I speak of this eminent personality, I would like to invite Mr. Adhindu Thakur to say a few words.
Namaskar, Dean Sir, Achintya, Akarshita Madam, HOD Madam. It is a great honor to me that when I asked Achint to come to this webinar, and she accepted it and appreciated the things that I told her. One day we were discussing regarding the same thing, that what should be the future of the legal profession after this pandemic period. Then she told me that there are only two professions that are going to survive, is the medicine and the law. So I am very grateful that you are here, Achint, and the students will be very inspired by your thinking regarding the situation of the profession in the present time and the time after the pandemic. And despite being such a busy schedule, you have given us this time. We are grateful. And now I request Akarshita Madam to give the entire and full details of your persona, so that all the students will be enlightened by your enriching career. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, sir. Before introducing you to our guest, I would like to quote Bruce Lee. He has said that the best fighter is not a boxer, karate, or a judo man. The best fighter is someone who can adapt on any style. He kicks too good for a boxer, throws too good for a karate man, and punches too good for a judo man. I really think that our guest, Ms. Achint Kaur, who is herself a very distinguished and multifaceted personality, truly believes in this. I again, on behalf of SRM University and Faculty of Law, welcome you, ma'am. Despite being the daughter of the Revenue and Finance Secretary of the country, she made it her own through sheer integrity and hard work. Her life is an epitome of humility. With almost 2 decades of multifaceted experiences and credentials, she started her career with renowned law firm Luthra and Luthra, then did litigation in both civil and criminal side. She spent a major part of her career as an in-house for multifarious corporate houses, negotiating high-end deals for top Fortune 500 companies with Airtel, Vodafone, BSNL, Deutsche Telekom, etc. as part of Nokia and Ericsson. She has not only developed expertise in commercial and contract negotiations while working for a diverse set of corporates, right from contracts for IT companies like IBM, Atos, CSC, to telecom companies like British Telecom, Airtel, Vodafone, BSNL, but also the media and entertainment houses like Bloomberg Times, T-Series, Saregama, C, Tips, Ghana.com, hotel industry with Marriott, financial sector with Credit Suisse, and mining industry with De Beers Diamonds affiliated companies, and the list goes on. She also specializes in regulatory approvals, fillings, and licenses from RBI for import-export transactions, FDI, FEMA, or any licenses for e-wallets or payment systems or e-commerce entities, even the billion-dollar and merger and acquisition deals and audit requirements over and above the general corporate advisory on varied domains from IPR, PF, KYC, privacy, and other digital and virtualized cloud space have been flawlessly executed by her. In spite of her extensive experience, she always has an unquenchable thirst for learning and believes in always sharpening her saw in the ever dynamic world. Being an alumni of Lawrence School Sanawa, Hindu College and Campus Law Center, she did her master's in political science from DU, pursued LLM, has an MBA from IIM Kolkata and international certifications from World Intellectual Property Rights Organization Geneva, as well as numerous commercial and contracts, as well as consulting and systems integration certifications and diplomas from reputed international organizations. She is not only a distinguished legal professional but also believes in giving back to society and has thus been deeply involved with an NGO working with special children and adults, de-addiction, cancer patients, senior citizen, vocational and skill development, etc. I am profusely overjoyed to take the opportunity to introduce our chief guest of the day. She is a principal associate at Khaitan and Company, is one of the India's oldest, most recognized Tier 1 full services law firm of the country, established since 1911 with offices spanning across India. She, with her widespread experience from Luthras to litigation, numerous corporates, outsourcing, and now with Khaitan and Company. She will motivate the students with precious inputs and insights into diverse career opportunities in the legal domain. Now, we request our distinguished chief guest, Ms. Achint Kaur, to address the gathering and to give her precious inputs to our dear students to motivate us all by giving a living example of kindness and selfless service to your nation. You have given your best by sharing your expertise and knowledge in every way possible to help poor children get an education. Thus, I'm sure that all the students are all motivated to become like you. Moreover, she being a multifaceted personality always is an avid writer, poet, and plays the violin. Her entire journey has her values and engraved. With that being said, I feel privileged to extend my warm welcome to Ms. Achint Kaur to enlighten the dynamic minds based on her life experiences. Ma'am.
Thanks a lot. I'm extremely humbled by your gracious words. A very good afternoon to all of you and my dear students. Thank you, Dean Sir, Ardhendu Sir, the entire faculty for inviting me. I hope all of you are not only safe at home, but in the best of spirits. Now let's get on with the topic for the day, which is the future of legal profession in COVID times, with key emphasis on consistency along with emotional and mental health. As we all know, that it is during these volatile times that our emotional health is checked and put to test. And this is what is going to determine how we will come out as a victorious team, not only for our country, but the world over. We shall overcome this particular pandemic and it will change our ways going forward. Now, looking at the COVID-driven changes, we all know that law and the legal fraternity has normally not been so happy to accept digitalization. However, COVID-19 has propelled law into the digital age and reshaped its entire landscape. The entire legal ecosystem, whether it is the consumers, providers, academy, or the judicial system at large, they all are equally affected. When we talk of remote virtual workforce or even distance learning, these may have become a norm of today, but these, let me tell you, are only a tip of the iceberg. What is important is that we all need to have an adaptive mindset and rapid adjustment to new operating procedures is required. What is important is that even in the educational setup, we need to ensure that all of them, all the individuals are going to demonstrate that this virtual landscape is not only going to help them go forward, but even from an educational perspective, this social distancing has still ensured that the process of education is a lifelong process where competency and agility are going to be prized as degrees and pedigrees. So we must ensure that we change with time and quickly adapt to the ever-changing volatile environment. When we look at the trends created by the pandemic, there are a few things that we must keep in mind. While we all know that yes, the client demands have increased and changed, but there is a greater focus on safety and sustainability. Obviously, we need to ensure that this particular pandemic is going to prepare us to weather future black swan events like COVID-19 or others. And we must learn and take these learnings with us to emerge as healthier and in a better economic position. This new normal requires improved skills for working from home and being adept with working with digital technology. This you all should understand that even though COVID does present some grim pictures around the world, but we mustn't forget the quotation by Winston Churchill that success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue which will count. So no matter what the COVID situation may present, it is our continuous learning, that desire and zeal to excel, no matter what the situation, no matter what profession we come from. We need to ensure that whatever the situation life throws at us, we are willing to continuously learn, take it as a learning experience and move ahead with greater zeal and enthusiasm. When we talk of the silver lining that COVID presents, we mustn't forget that it has brought people together. You may be wondering how, that when we all are sitting in our homes, how has it actually brought us together? Let me take a step back. Don't you think that it has brought people together on common platforms? People who did not have time to even take a breath or say a hi and hello to their loved ones are now faced with common situations around the world. Families and colleagues are finding new ways to connect. And this is what was the hearty, good learning from COVID. While we know that digitalization obviously brings with it the electronic contracts, whether it is contracts or any other digital transactions, that is now going to become the new way of life. We may not have initially embraced it wholeheartedly, but now COVID has left no option, and these are the positive learnings for all. Take the environment and sustainability. Everything has now got to take a different look altogether. Let us take a step and look at specific impact of COVID on different sectors in the legal fraternity. When we're talking about other sectors of the economy or society, let me tell you, legal profession weathers downturns much better than overall economy. This is just like Ardhendu Thakur had mentioned just now. And this is because of the fact that the legal profession has a counter-cyclical practice area, which continues and actually excels in conflicting times. Yes, it may be a sad scenario for those who are confronted with it. However, as we face our professional duties with an empathetic mind and a heart which is concerned with the well-being of all, we can ensure that the legal profession will continue to do well and excel. Nevertheless, that being said, COVID does impart learnings to prepare for unprecedented scenarios. Before I continue, just take one step and think of the learnings that COVID brings. COVID tells us that we must keep ourselves informed, we must prepare, we must remain smart, and then eventually safe. And these are learnings which are going to help us in whichever profession we are. Taking it forward, we understand that while there may be some good side for the legal profession, there are some grim realities which also need to be taken into account. Yes, there are pressures on pricing. We need to look for alternative delivery models, and considering the fact that there is a lot of competition, the collections are going to be tough. There are stiff client demands and competitions. Now, considering that, there are some differential impacts on various sectors. Whether it is from a labor or employment demands, different sectors face different impacts. Take, for example, the travel and tourism industry, or the leisure, airlines, hospitality, or the retail business generally as such. They have taken a deep hit and are showing a decline. Nevertheless, there are sectors like healthcare, medical supply, sanitation, grocery, in-home entertainment, and all the e-com online entities which are seeing a great upsurge and increase in demand. So it's not sad for all the industries. What we need to do is we need to focus on the high demand sectors which have an upsurge. Even within the legal fraternity, there is bound to be an upsurge in litigation. There could be some restructuring, considering that profitability is going to be on the minds of everyone. So there could be companies who may want to merge with each other. There could be supplier disputes, government compliance requirements, regulatory, as well as protecting your IPR are going to be concerns on everyone's mind. Every company or a supplier or a service provider is trying to look for loopholes under the force majeure clauses of their contracts so as to get some leeway during these difficult times. The labor and employment have taken a hit across the globe and in different sectors all over. Obviously, these are points which would be requiring legal interpretation. Refinancing of different loans, contractual interpretations, and nuanced forms of negotiation are again things that you should be alert about. When we talk of the regulatory changes, you may understand that considering even India, the geopolitical scenario with which we all are faced, India, like any other country of the world, is now looking inwards, trying to safeguard its own population, and that is the only way that we can ensure the Atmanirbhar Bharat that we are talking about, the dream that we all live to see, that we are going to be self-reliant and no such pandemic, whether now or in future, should ever have any impact of stopping us. Our growth should go provided it is going to be self-dependent. Now here, there are fluctuations in employment and due to different stress events. If you look at the transactional demand for legal services with changing priorities of the government, now who needs to look at expenditures and the limited available resources very closely. All these are going to have a differential impact on the kinds of legal services and the demands that would be presented. Then we look at the international conglomerates, those who are more dependent upon cross-border movement are going to be greater affected than the regional businesses. Nevertheless, compliance and governance are all going to ensure transparency in times to come, along with compliance to the standards and policies. A few points to consider here would be just a quick shift. I will take you through the various points. One is the global economic structure. From shifting from the cheapest source available, now there is a demand to go for supply chain security and sustainability, so that they have a guarantee that no matter what kind of a pandemic comes in future, they will ensure a safe and secure continuous supply with business continuity and disaster management plans in place. Then we look at global mobility restrictions, because of which the travel is restricted. Thus, there is a focus on greater regulations and strengthening of the same. The government is now prioritizing demands and expenditures. Now for regulation, there have been streamlining of e-approvals, not only for the medical and pharma industry, but also in all areas of government's regulatory process being hastened. The entire healthcare sector has been reinvented with a greater desire to ensure access and preparedness for the future. Digital technology is going to be in the forefront, as we all know, with greater use of data, automation, and predictive analytics. It is only with predictive analytics, let me remind you that even before COVID had come out full-fledged, it was predicted, like I mentioned in my previous lecture, that this has already been predicted. It is things like these which should have been prepared for. So now these predictive analytics are going to be taken much more seriously than they were in yesteryears. The virtual workforce, which is now the new norm, is here to stay. Obviously, considering the fact that there are reduced infrastructural costs, the benefits are imminent for itself. When we look at digital purchasing preferences, most of the people have changed their preferences from the brick and mortar stores to the online stores, because of which the retail business within the brick and mortar shops have taken a deep hit. Considering the social boundaries which are caused by social distancing, there is going to be an increased cost for airline, restaurant, movie, and sporting industry. Even the educational system has seen a tremendous transformation. It has revolutionized the entire e-learning system. And I'm sure you all have been used to seeing people who are mentoring you with virtual e-learning platforms. And this is only going to expand in times to come. When we talk of the impact on different legal facets, there's another point, going back to the slide, I'd like to bring to your notice an interesting fact, because I don't want you to get a little bit relaxed in the jargon that is presented. Even the government of India, as part of the educational revolution, revolutionizing e-learning, has been giving mobile phones as part of the government schools. Are you aware of that? This is primarily because of the fact that they have included, as part of the new education policy, new systems of keeping the students engaged in an e-learning and through e-learning platforms. Now, this is something, if the government schools can lay a focus on this, obviously you can see that the entire government focus and the country's focus is on digitalizing the entire educational framework. Now, going to the next slide, the different facets of the impact of COVID can be seen on different platforms, which obviously I've just dealt with the clients. They have a different focus, right from the pressure demands of prices. There are also the platforms which are faced with volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, better known as VUCA. These VUCA economic strategies are going to be applied by one and all. Here, what is important is that different platforms are going to be seeing whether they can scale and leverage these crises to their benefit. What is going to be important is to focus on core competencies. From an economics perspective, there is an acceleration to profitability. There will be data-driven decision-making and talent. When we talk of talent, there is going to be a greater focus on diversity and inclusion. If you all are well aware with the new education policy, you would know that even the new education policy has been focusing on inclusion and excellence as the main drivers in times to come. We will require multidisciplinary teams so that each team can give their best to give a best result for the future generations. We need to promote the morale of the teams through reward and recognition. As part of the culture, the business performance-minded culture is going to be the main stress of the day. Along with that, just a laid-back attitude may not work today. What is important is an agile teaming where you are continuously collaborating with each other and in touch with all your teammates, no matter where they are located. A digital collaboration and connectivity is the foremost need of the hour. With these strategies, let's go to the next learnings that COVID has presented for different legal sectors. When we talk of the post-COVID scenario, we all know that it is going to be a cost-sensitive market because of the economic pressures being faced by all. Nevertheless, all clients are going to be looking at the best-in-class legal services at the most affordable rates. Law schools like ours are not only confronted by competition from the tech-enabled companies offering legal expertise and also the professional business schools who offer legal courses complementing their core curriculum, thereby preparing students for newly created legal jobs. When we talk of law firms and in-house departments, all of them would need to be transformed with delivering solutions to the business challenges being confronted by all. How can the courts be far behind? The judiciary also must go digital. As you know, that virtual courts have begun. However, that being said, with a pinch of salt, even though it is the new norm, we know that courts would need to understand that both physical hearings as well as virtual hearings would need to go hand in hand only where it is a bare minimum and essential requirement that the physical hearing is required, would that be insisted? Otherwise, virtualization is the next call of the day. When we talk of differentiation, both that along with collaboration are the need of the hour. You need to ensure that you try and present how you are different and segregated. Only then you can excel along with the team members that you have. So it may not necessarily be that you alone can be at the forefront. You need to take your entire team together. That also means that digitization with seamless, integrated teams, right from law firms in-house corporates, educational institutions, as well as judiciary collaborating together to create impacting business value. Consumers' access to these platforms and reliable skill sets of enterprises having capability not only to modulate the footprint as per the geographical requirements, technology, processes, the delivery capabilities being there, along with capital and a multidisciplinary expertise is the need of the hour. When we're talking about the core values, now here we've dealt in detail with the legal impact. Let us tell you what is going to be at the backbone of all this. It is going to be patience, along with consistency and continuous learning. These are extremely crucial during the volatile times. Innovation is a key element for differentiation. When we talk of consistency, consistency is not only with respect to the finances, but with respect to how you treat people, as well as with respect to the safety and security. Additionally, there are some points like adaptability which must be kept in mind, since only when we are willing to change will we be able to be resilient for the coming years. Client focus with increased empathy for people is going to be at the heart of it all. Flexibility and collaboration, both are extremely important. Everyone must be treated with respect. It is then when we will resonate with a humane work ethic. It is keeping in mind these core principles, we come to the end of our slide, which is maintaining a spirited, mental, emotional well-being. What this requires is that we must emphasize social interactions. Try and find out new forms to connect, whether it is a weekly check-in with family, friends, or colleagues, or it is the continuous learning and talent reskilling, which is important, for which you must stay engaged in productive activities and sharpening of your saw. Set short-term challenging targets. And then when you achieve them, that sense of pride will be unmatched. Even the government has been focusing on higher education. There has been a mental and emotional well-being 24/7 helpline, which anyone can connect to. We must emerge stronger from this crisis. And how is that possible? The only way possible is to take the learnings and take small steps towards improving each day. We need to keep up to speed with latest developments. Other than that, we need to understand that no matter what the situation, we have to have a solution-oriented approach. Conflicts will come and go, but what is important is that you must understand that everyone is in it together. So don't forget to rest, eat well, stay hydrated, spread cheer all around, contribute to those who are less fortunate, because we must be grateful. No matter how difficult the situation is, understand that life is going to throw lots of challenges to us. It is when we maintain our calm and rejuvenate ourselves with renewed zeal, knowing that this too shall pass, that we can spread the cheer and zeal amongst others also. Only then can we ensure overall wellness. We must remain energized with physical activity, mental nourishment, stimulation with both food for the soul. You will be able to continue on your path to success. Always remember, positive thinking is the key. That's about it from my end. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for enlightening us with your kind words and gracious presence. Now, I would request all the students that the session is open for the questions. You can write your questions in the chat box. I think your session was so nice that students have cleared all the things. They have no queries left.
No worries. I am sure if they have anything, just feel free to reach out to me. You all have my number. And just understand that even though tough times are there, the tough times will not last. It is the tough people who will last. So with that courage and conviction, we all can move ahead. And it is an absolute pleasure. I would like to thank all of you for inviting me. And I'm happy that I could reconnect with each of you. That is the most pleasant part of this afternoon. Thank you.
Akarsita madam, I want to intervene in it. Please tell the students with the vociferous voice that they must ask the question to one of the finest legal brain of the India. And they will not get opportunity like this. So they must raise the questions that is running in their mind regarding their profession, regarding their internship, regarding their placements, etc., etc. So they must raise their hand and initiate the questions.
Students, as you have heard from Thakur sir, you won't get another chance to connect with such a personality. Kindly ask the questions on this.
I think we have a question here. How can we emphasize on less fortunate people? See, the best part of doing so is while we are, each of us want to earn the big bucks, and we are here joining as part of SRM only to ensure that yes, we have good careers, but while emphasizing on the less fortunate, the only way we can do that is that through the pro bono efforts. And what that means is that even though you may not have as of now gained all the legal expertise, nevertheless, there are several people around you, whether it is the working class, the laborers, or anyone who they may be in touch with, or any other class 4 employee. Always reach out to them and ask them if they are doing well. They would know several others who would be in need of help. It is these ways through which we can collaborate with each other. We don't have to always wait for the government to intervene in order to help the less fortunate. It is when each of us create a chain and reach out to those who are in need that we can make a difference. The next question is from Prateek. Where do you see the legal profession and technology in the next 5 years? Considering you did raise the point of technology, is it possible for us to make the most out of technology considering the kind of internet connections we have, and also the fact that remote areas still are not accessible? Very good. Prateek, there are two sets of questions here that you have raised, and I will accordingly answer them. when you talk of the legal profession and technology in the next 5 years, you mustn't forget that while, yes, our economic situation of the country is not doing too well as of now, nevertheless, when we talk of the digital outreach, that has been unprecedented. Like I just mentioned, that even government schools have been handing out the mobile handsets to the students who are engaged. In such a case scenario, just try and think of it that in the outreach of different villages, in remote villages of our country, where this is just the beginning. COVID has propelled us into the digital space, which we may not have taken so easily. I think the legal profession is not so easy, like I'd mentioned, to accept digitization. But now there is no question about it that even though initially it was not taken so well, but now it is becoming the new norm. So in 5 years from now, you can see that there would be greater acceptance. Things which people are now coming to accept only as an initial phase will then become the norm. Considering the point of technology, yes, I completely understand that the network problems are there, and that is also considering the fact that we have an extremely dense population. Because of that density, the per unit usage is extremely high. Nevertheless, I would still say that with different forms of the telecom industry now extending its outreach, and we know that Reliance is on the move. So with the digital platforms, there would be the remote access, remote areas which would be connected. As of now, it is yet only a tip of the iceberg, but don't worry, this will go much further. Together we will. The next question is on the lockdown. My question is, this is by Parbat Singh, that lockdown may have brought a crisis in every profession, but the migrant labor issue was most disturbed from the lockdown. Yes. Do you think, ma'am, that Indian labor legislations need drastic reforms? Yes, Parbat, I completely understand. Considering the fact that the migrant laborers, they are the daily wage earners, and they were not able to get a confirmation that they would be able to secure their next meal. That is the reason that they went back to their villages. That being said, I think we need to see a complete aspect of it. I think if that panic was not caused, if it could have been dealt, that even staying here, I remember while I had myself personally reached out to different migrant laborers across the country, and there were times when I was getting calls right from Daman and Diu to Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and Ardhendu used to ask me which state that you're getting the call from next. I think that being said, the more serious point here is that we were sometimes able to convince several such laborers who stayed back. Like when we tried to explain to them that if they go back to their villages, one, they may not have as many sources of income because everyone did not have access to land to fall back to for their farming. Additionally, even those who went back, they may not necessarily be assured the best health care. So I think what is important is that one side, we need to, yes, focus on the labor reforms so that the daily laborers can get an assured income, keeping in mind the economics both from the government and the private sector. I think it is important that the private sector should also take responsibility, but everything needs to be going hand in hand with people's participation, because No such private sector can survive, nor can the government, if people, each of us, you, me, do not pool in whatever little drops we can. I may not have made a difference or a drastic change even in those 100 families or 1,000 families that I reached out to. But even if it was a drop, I think it was worth it. So what we should do is that one side, we should try and work towards some labor reforms, trying to ensure at least those, the amount that is mentioned in the labor laws as the minimum amount which is going to be guaranteeing their employment. Maybe we can consider revising the amounts there, because obviously considering inflation, the amounts of 10,000, etc., may not necessarily suffice. Then when we come to the next, we have Prateek, who is saying, also I have another doubt, courts aren't working and we law students have done all kinds of virtual internships we could have. Before, give me a sec, I think I've missed out some previous questions.
He just, I want to add on that. He just wants to know that how can he enrich himself in the experience of court experiences or offline experiences in the online internship program. That he wants to know.
See, I'll tell you, other than that, there are several corporates as well as law firms which even during these lockdown periods are taking people as interns. Yes, I understand that the numbers have dwindled. Nevertheless, despite the dwindling numbers, there are few things that you must focus on. First and foremost, always keep yourself open to new forms of learning, because that will keep you up to speed and sharpen your saw, like I mentioned, because that is what all organizations are now looking at. The traditional forms of learning are now going to be replaced by the online modes. And similarly, when it comes to your internships, there are, like, take for example our law firm also, we are obviously having some internships even till date. The numbers may have dwindled, but that doesn't remove the requirement of interns at all. So don't forget that there will be always a requirement, and what is important is keep up to speed with the latest developments, because that will give you that differentiation which is essentially required to excel. Give me a second, let me go back to the next questions. Reshma is saying, ma'am, could you please enlighten us with how important are the HR policies of a firm for maintaining the mental health and well-being of the employees? I would say it is extremely important, because I'll give you an example from our own law firm. Apart from the normal weekly sessions, connect sessions, or the team connect sessions that we have different forms of engagement. Like what we have started is that amongst ourselves, we call it 60 seconds with a celebrity. We have started nominating each other, and just like the Coffee with Karan, we have a coffee show every Friday evening, where each one, apart from the work, tries to share their personal interesting details which help each of us understand the others much better. So I think we need to come up with the newer forms of engagement. What is important is that even in our law firm, we have associated with a specific organization who any of the members can anytime through a call only connect, and whether it is at the office front, whether it's a personal family problem, whatever be on your mind, it is important in these times, and especially in the background of what happened with Sushant. I think it has raised awareness, the much needed awareness about the mental health and well-being, which was being overlooked up till now. So what is important is that while it is understandable that yes, these are difficult times and each one will sometime or the other feel low. It's just a normal human tendency. What is important is don't let that small phase pull you down for too long. Give yourself some time to relax. Each person may have a different way of relaxing. We have some ways. The HR policies talk of lockdown stories. Each person shares some important, exciting stories, some things about their kids, sometimes about their pets, and sometimes stories how the pet has written a story of the lockdown, how their owners are spending more time with them. What we need to do is try and find out new ways of engaging, because it's only when the HR has a firm commitment towards it can we actually together resolve to work towards it. And this is not only for our firm. I have been a part of several corporates, and let me tell you that all corporate in-houses have the facility of some form of outreach program, the mental health of the employees being taken care of. There could be different engagement mechanisms. Earlier, yes, it was in person. They may connect, maybe on a virtual coffee connect or things like that, or some kind of a tambola. I remember our company had even organized some virtual connects. So it is important to feel engaged and try and touch base and empathize with the employees to understand their core problems and then work out a solution. Do you see insertion of force majeure clause being more prominent ever since the onset of this pandemic, and some companies misusing it to absolve liability? Yes, Vishesh, there are some important concerns around the force majeure clause that must be discussed. One is the actual definition. Now, everyone has been extremely careful about including terms related to the pandemic. But that being said, we must understand that the courts have taken a more pragmatic view, because they can understand that there could be some frivolous litigation. And what they have done is that they're going to the root of the particular contract and trying to see that is it that these kind of events were within the contemplation of the parties when they actually entered into it, considering the fact that contracts are essentially a business connect. So what is important is that the business commercials must be kept in mind. So even if there are some contracts which are being executed now in today's date, everybody knows that COVID is here to stay. So just because we may be looking at nuanced forms of negotiation and wording of the force majeure clause, that itself does not necessarily mean that we can conveniently absolve our liability. So what the courts look at is that does the specific scenario in each case, first they go to the specific text and express terms of the contract, because we do not want that anybody should try and superimpose some provisions of trying to absolve liability when the actual express terms of the contract required them to perform their terms, and the conditions which they are faced with have not made it virtually impossible. So what courts actually do is they go to the specific terms, and there is no wholesale absolving of liability. And that being said, since courts have taken those decisions now, it is very important that people should not think that just because there is COVID, they can absolve their liability or go for any such frivolous litigation. What is important is that you need to prepare. So when we try and give any advice, what we say is that you need to exhaust all possible aspects and avenues to ensure that you supply the things in time. Because if everyone will start absolving itself from liability, then how can, whether it's a private, government, or the country or the world at large, how can the economics function if people will not perform their responsibilities? Okay, the next question is by Prateek. I think we've already dealt with the virtual courts and the virtual internships. I think considering that but are we not able to learn, but we are not able to learn to know what could we have learned from physical hearings. I completely understand that yes, physical hearings uh, are obviously the best way forward, but not in COVID times, because at the end of the day, we need to understand that only when health and safety will be ensured can the future be secured. Yes, in times where it is an absolute requirement and there is no way out, those exceptions can be carved out, but let those be exceptions till such time that COVID subsides. And so in these virtual hearings, I think what you need to consider is that, like we were discussing with several judges, that they actually look at the body language, they look at the face, because obviously you don't get to see the entire body language so as to gauge how the litigant or the petitioner or defendant is going to be responding. So they say that it becomes very important, considering that there could be network problems, to even connect and gauge properly. Nevertheless, I think these are some hiccups which we will need to deal with in times to come. So internship opportunities, yes, there are different kinds of internship opportunities. I think what you should do is that in any crisis situation, always understand that the only way out is to be more innovative. Try and see as many different fields. So whether it is a particular corporation or international conglomerate, or it is the government, everybody requires some or the other support. What is important is you try and see that you can learn the maximum. As they say, in any pyramid, if you want to go higher, you need to expand your base. So try and get as much knowledge of different sectors. And when you get that knowledge, only then you will be able to move to the next level in the pyramid. We have the next question from Iha. My question is regarding the situation of COVID, where we students are at home and there is a time when we feel a bit emotional and mental setback. Can you express how we can deal with this, ma'am? Sure. And that's, I think, the main reason and why even SRM as an institution felt empathetic and concerned that the students would be facing this. And that's the reason that we all were discussing that this is a very pertinent topic that we all must take up, because this is, as an organization, we all feel the commitment towards our students. So what I'll suggest is there are a few do's and don'ts, or some things that you can follow. One, always have some kind of a routine that you set. The routine can be different for different people. And what I would suggest is don't have only one set of things. These are the times when developing your hobbies is more pertinent than ever before. What you need to ensure is that there are different kinds of activities which you must fill in your entire day's work. When you're working, try and ensure that right from family time, time spent with friends, time spent on any work, education, or any pro bono work, trying to help out people, trying to educate yourself, or some kind of artistic thing, literary, music. Some people may just want to see TV. What is important is that you need to learn to, one, spend specific time for relaxation, for spending time with loved ones, for enriching your mind and soul. So the spiritual connect, spend some specific time, keep it out. It doesn't matter what time of the day, it doesn't have to be a special ritual, but it is that time when you're connecting with the Almighty. because there are innumerable things we need to be grateful for. When you try and look around you, you see there are so many people who are the class 4 employees who don't have 2 square meals to provide to their families. I think when we reach out, it doesn't have to be only in terms of cash. Maybe they require some support, hearing, and just that ear that you provide to them, that can give the support. And when you will listen to what they have to say, you will realize how fortunate you yourself are. So it's going to be a two-way process, both in terms of your own healing as well as helping those who are less fortunate. This is one aspect. Yes, if someone requires any kind of food, requires any kind of financial assistance, requires any kind of vocational training, try and see what kind of skills each person is having. Because see, the dream that we have of an Atmanirbhar Bharat, it cannot happen just on paper. It will happen when each of us contribute and work towards dealing and interacting with the people around us and trying, which are untapped as of now. Try and understand that do they require some training which you can provide based on your 8, 10, 12, 15 years of formal different education that you may have had, or once you've had this, what is it that you can contribute? So I think when you divide your day into all these sets of activities, and there's no need to set bigger, long-term goals of 1 year or 5 years. That used to be of yesteryears. Now, in that extremely volatile environment where nobody knows what next year would have in store or what numbers would be there in the coming year, it's important to set small goals and achieve it day by day. As you will achieve it, you will realize that that mental, emotional setback that you are getting, that will be gone, because you will get that strength from whatever you achieve. And don't forget to connect with your friends, with your colleagues, with your faculty members, with your families, because each such connect, it could be in different forms. It could be a message, it could be a text. I remember several of us, we used to have the virtual birthday celebrations, even from our post corporate in-house. So even though I may have come to a law firm, but I'm still organizing the birthday gifts and the cakes and the flowers that I'm sending to my colleagues in different corporates. I think it's not a matter of what you send. It's a matter of just making the person feel special. Some wish or just reaching out to people. The moment you feel that you have not connected with someone, rather than just feeling that, pick up the phone. I've noticed Ardhendu does that. I've noticed all my colleagues do that. Immediately reach out to each other, and that will help not only that person, but even yourself. So I think all these are just some of the points that you can consider. Going forward, ma'am, is that possible? And that being said, I think even then, if you feel that you want some additional help, the government has provided a 24/7 helpline. Other than that, there is nothing wrong in just discussing with your friends and family if there is any point which requires any discussion, because see, conflicting situations are bound to occur, and when times become difficult, then conflicts sometimes increase. So just understand that yes, it's all right to have conflict, but don't get yourself stuck in it. What is important is try and find solutions. Like I mentioned, have a solution-oriented approach. That can happen. Make sure you spend time out in the sun. Make sure that you get rejuvenated with these additional sources, whether it is just listening to your kind of music. These separate compartments which you create, they will help in balancing your life. Another thing that is important is that within your home, try and demarcate a specific area for your studies or for your work, because what that will do is that otherwise, if you don't separately segregate that area, then just sitting anywhere doesn't necessarily segregate the work or the educational time that you spend from the daily chores that you're engaging in. So it's important that you bring that discipline. It's not necessary that it has to be so disciplined that you forget to take a break. Learn to take a break, but yes, keep the discipline in mind. Okay, then going to the next. Yes, Ardhendu, continue.
No, I am saying that suddenly there are a lot of questions and you must be busy, your schedule must be very packed up. So if you are willing to answer all the questions, then I have no issues. But I think... no
worries, I think there are only 2 questions that are left.
Okay. Yes, then continue.
I'll just quickly deal with them. Nancy is asked that, is it possible that some online internships can be offered to SRM university students so that we can make the most of this pandemic time? We can assure that we will be able to perform to the best of our capabilities. Well, what is important is, like I mentioned, that we need to apply to as many areas, and then as per the need and requirement, I'm sure what will happen is that if different organizations may have 1 or 2 different openings for an internship, so what you can do is that you can even mention that, okay, this particular time slot of a particular month, sometimes like law firms like ours, we have bookings right up till the next year. So it's important that you try and apply to as many, and like I mentioned, we can share the details of some consultants also who can be reached out to, and then as per the openings, I'm sure you can find something suitable, and additionally keep yourself sharpened so that you are making the best time. Okay, what do you think about the way, this is Tanya, about the way farm bills got passed in Rajya Sabha, breaking the rule of conduct? Also, do the provisions of farm bills, are they beneficial? I think that's what you. Moreover, I have one more question. NEP 2020, new education policy, just talks about policy with no implementation dates. Was it necessary in this COVID situation? Well, I think while we are a little bit deviating from the topic, but yes, there are a few points. I think, see, one is breaking from, let's not get into the breaking from the rule of conduct. What is important is that, yes, we need to ensure that farm benefits are there in place, even though I would not say that everything is going to be a foolproof mechanism to just with a sword find solutions, but every small step in the right direction is going to help. So what is important is that while, yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, I was disconnected, so I had to search for the net. And what is next? I was a little bit disconnected, yeah.
We've had lots of questions being asked by an extremely active audience. And I think we're at the last question here. And even when it comes to the new education policy, let me tell you, while the law and the regulations are still the governing factor, yes, it is a policy, but still the policy sets out different points for consideration, I would say. And I think while even as lawyers, even in the educational setup, we have specific laws governing the educational system, and they continue to exist. The policy does provide specific guidelines on special areas which need to be focused on. So it's not about the COVID situation. What I would say, what is important is, yes, the implementation in the right spirit, while keeping all the basic ideals of our country intact and ensuring that education reaches the masses in all nooks and corners, while keeping digitalization and inclusion with excellence as being the main guiding forces. I think that's how we can proceed into the future.
These are the policy decisions, and the Prime Minister of India is very concerned towards our well-being. So it is very early to comment on all this.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, and answering all the questions patiently, so patiently. Now I would like to invite our Dean, sir, for his special remarks.
Thank you, Akarshita. And I was a little bit disturbed. I got disconnected because of my own net issues. Anyway, I got reconnected, and I'm here with you. I should express my thanks to Ajint for every time just be available for us and doing the task at her best. And even if she has very, very busy schedules, I know that. And thank you everybody and who has been participating, doing all this, particularly you, Akashita, managing it very well. Then especially Ardhendu Thakur, doing the rest. HOD ma'am, she's in a very difficult situation, but managing it. Every minute she's on phone and managing it. This is the great teamwork, the wonderful team I am blessed with. One thing I want to comment about the subject is that we in India are fighting this battle in a different way. You know, when this pandemic started, it started with some WHO regulations from on the basis of Chinese model. There is no problem with the Chinese model. I do not want to discuss that more. I have talked about that a lot of times. I remember that this is the Spanish flu model. This was created by Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations, who created this Flexner model and made the human civilization and healthcare dependent on big hospitals. But now what has happened, till the matter was with the big hospitals and the outside care, India hadn't even 30% recovery rate. Today, India has the highest recovery rate, that is 80%. And this is only when they have shifted the policy and made this home quarantine and home curing possible for the people who are getting cured in the home. And death rate is one of the lowest, it is 1.6. This is again a record in the world. This shows the capacity and vibrancy of our people, our India. We were talking about very poor people, migrants, laborers, and all that, but they have the resilience and they have the vibrancy to fight all these challenges, including anything. So, to fight or not to fight this disease, these lockdowns didn't matter for us. They took away our civil liberties, they took away our fundamental rights, they took away our human rights, they took away our food from the platter of the migrant laborers, and still there are a lot of problems which have been created by those lockouts, which was simply based on WHO model. Now we can say that we have our own model, how to fight this COVID with resilience. We are back to the work, back to the task, back to the table, and working very hard at the same time to fight this COVID. And today only, we are 80% recovered country, 80% recovered country. Recovery rate is just 80.16 today. I am just monitoring the data. And the death rate is 1.6. So let us not be afraid of it. Yes, new education policy is digitalizing everything, but I believe that legal profession is something beyond this digitalization and technology control. It is simply a human situation which only human beings can solve. It is pertaining to justice. Only justice which can be available on this earth beyond the control of God is lies with the courts, lies with the judicial system, lies with the lawyers, lies with the legal fraternity, and they have to have their own share of responsibility. Thank you very much. Thank you, Achin. Thank you, Ardhendu. Thank you, Deepshika. Thank you, Akarshita. Thank you, all faculty, for being so supportive and so tremendous in this work, doing a wonderful work, a wonderful teamwork. I'm very blessed with. So nice of you, all of you. And this is our, that internal component of e-Agas has almost ended today. Now it will next, what next will be decided by HOD, and she will do definitely something better for the next period, that is to fall after this e-Agas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dean sir. So with your permission, I would like to wind up the session on the quote that if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. So with your permission, can we wind up the session?
Yes, you can go ahead, and you want to change it, you change it. Yeah.
Thank
Full
you so much.
autonomy. Exercise full autonomy. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for joining. See you tomorrow.